Business pays. I drove as an Uber driver.
Oh, you're an Uber driver?
Yes.
So ulikuwa unauza suti na Uber?
Yes. Nilikuwa naenda na Uber nikibeba msimu mwenye ako na suti. Namwambia bro, mimi nauzanga suti. One thing that startups have challenges with is capital. And many people take advantage of that.
What have you learned from success and what exactly have you learned from failure?
Failure is not fatal. Failure is just a season. Or is that a small component of success? And success is not final. You might be successful today, tomorrow you're not. The most important thing is to remain consistent.
Good evening and welcome to the Late Night Business. My name is Ian Dennis, and as always, each and every week we have a very interesting show lined up. And today I have a gentleman whose career is literally my career, a CPA, but it's an entrepreneur, politician, and so many other more things that you're going to be learning about during this particular episode. But before I get to introduce my guest, I want to remind you that you're here at the Capital Club, the place that you need to be as an entrepreneur, because at the Capital Club you have a wide access, access to so many different particular amenities. And even when you're traveling across the world, you can access the Capital Club across different particular cities in the world: Dubai, London, New York, whatever it is. And also I want to remind you that two of my books are out. One, Food for Thought, the other, Business Conquest. You can actually get them at the Textbook Center. And today nimevaa kaunda, courtesy of Hati Couture. I look like the president right now, but I'm very, very truthful. No pun aside. The gentleman I'm actually speaking about is CPA Newton Khamasi. Hope I got it right.
Yes.
Khamasi.
Yes. Very important.
Nice to see you. Pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure to be here.
The first question I like starting all my conversations: what exactly are you most grateful for today?
I'm grateful for the gift of life from God, because that is something that is priceless, something that I cannot demand. It's given to me by His mercies. So I'm very grateful to that. And also I'm grateful to the family that I have, that is God-given. And yes, I'm thankful for the vision I have in my mind.
That's quite interesting. I want you just to take you back. First of all, let's just start at this particular point. You're a CPA.
Yes.
How did you decide to become an accountant? Why did that come about?
First of all, Ian, you know, my journey is such a unique one.
Yes.
When I was back in high school, I never intended to do accounting or something else. I just wanted to be a computer genius person. I wanted to delve into computer science. So even in high school, I remember my principal, because I was a darling to the teachers because of my performance.
Yeah. Oh, you're an A student?
Yes, I was a very sharp student. So in high school, my principal was like, Newton, why haven't you picked medicine? And I was like, sir, I don't think that is my path. I want to do computer science. I want to study something with technology, because I have a passion for technology, and that is the journey I wanted to pass through. So fast forward, we do our exams. Exam inakuja, results inakuja na challenges zake. So I missed on joining the University of Nairobi to do computer science. So with that, my hopes were like dimmed. But I said, one day, one time, I'll be able to do that. So in the process of joining campus, I decided, let me focus on accounting and finance. At least that is a common denominator on every transaction that happened in the world. So that is what pushed me to do CPA. I went to Strathmore because I felt Strathmore has what it takes to instill in me what I needed. And true to my word, it has really, really impacted me in a very positive way.
Interesting. Let me take you back. You mentioned you're a sharp student, so meaning you're an A student. So I'm sure probably they say you missed a point, probably just got A minus or something like that.
Yes. I got something close to that.
You're not the average student, kama sisi wengine. But where did you grow up? How was your upbringing like?
My upbringing was very challenging, I'll say, because I'm someone who has grown up without that deep love from my mother, because I lost my mother when I was 4 years old.
Sorry.
Then, so staying with my grandmother, staying with my father. It was a bit challenging, but it was worth it.
In Nairobi or Western?
No, in Western, in a small village.
Which part of Western?
In a place called Muyenga.
Muyenga. That's
Muyenga.
Which county?
It's in Lurambi constituency, Kakamega County.
Oh, Kakamega, yeah.
Yes. Near Bukura Agricultural Institute. Because that was our agricultural, that was our ancestral land. Yes.
And so you mentioned you grew up with a lot of challenges because you mentioned that you used to move about. So just looking back in retrospect, how do you look at your upbringing and how exactly did it shape who you are today?
How it shaped my life is because, one, I look at it as positively as possible. Because without those challenges, I wouldn't be the aggressive person I am today. I wouldn't be a go-getter I am today. I wouldn't be someone who wants to impact the people around me today. Because then my grandmother and my grandfather were very instrumental. Because my father used to go work and he would stay there for some time and come back.
What was he doing?
My dad started as a police officer and then he ended up as a prosecution officer in the courts.
In the court?
Yes. So he was a prosecutor. Then come 2012 now cancer came to him and he passed on when I was in my second year in campus. It was a devastating moment, I have to say. I almost gave up with my studying because it really impacted me. I felt like I was alone in the world and
because
everything.
Your mom was not there.
Exactly. Now dad is gone now. Everything is just going south. But I gave myself hope and I told myself I have one person who can never leave me and that is God. And that is what has been pushing me through.
And there's something that you mentioned earlier on was that you grew up with both your grandparents, and I can try to imagine it was not as easy as it was. What are some of the values they instill in you? Because literally, let's say, because dad used to go and work as a police officer.
My grandfather was a disciplinarian. He was a very tough man. He was those guys.
It's not easy on the grandson, because I know the grandparents are supposed to be easy.
He used to be calm, but he was very tough. I tell you, if you don't go to school, you will have issues with him. And he will not speak. He will cane you thoroughly. And our grandmother on the other side was soft-spoken. She was very loving and caring. She will not see the grandchildren feeling any pain. She will be there for you. Whatever she has, she will share with you and just ensure that you enjoy life as it's possible.
Yes. You know some of the things you learned from grandfather? Was there some of the things
my grandfather, yes, what I learned from him is be disciplined and focus and use what you have. Don't ever go taking things that don't belong to you. That was very critical for him because he was a farmer. He believed that he can get what he wants straight, not going through.
What was he farming?
He was doing banana farming and he had a lot of cows. So sometimes we used to go and had those cows and come back in the evening. We go look for firewood with my
So the normal
friends.
village life.
Yes, exactly. But it was an amazing one.
And grandma?
My grandmother was a church-going lady. She...
Today I'm doing interviews. Everybody's mom and grandmother will come talk and
yeah, so my grandmother was church-loving, was very religious. Actually, she was a senior person in church. And she used to take us to church. And funny thing about it is she took us to church at a very young age to a level where now I started my acting. The drama things in church. So in church, there's a moment I acted as the herald in the Bible.
So the plague was released on you.
Exactly. So we did all those things, courtesy of my grandmother, who was very, very, very positive on religious inclination.
And you also mentioned dad was a policeman, so I believe also for him he was also a disciplinarian.
Yes, him was a very tough one now. Sasa yeye, hey mazi, Ian, ulikuwa unachapwa bana. You know, nowadays I see kids and I see the freedom they have, including my own children. They have this freedom that they don't get caned. But us, I believe that is what shaped us.
Maybe it was
you know, people are saying, saying, millennials, we are not agitating as things the way the Gen Z right now.
I am agitating.
But ile kuchapwa tulichapwa. But we appreciate it because it was fun. It was something that was amazing to experience because without that discipline, some of us will not be where we are right now.
And then you also experienced something very difficult. What's it called? Having a parent who's gone through cancer, having to lose your only parent to become now an orphan. How did you overcome that season?
It was very tough. And I can tell you there are moments even right now. It gets to me, but I keep the focus because it's not easy. Because in this life, there's no one who will understand you better than your own mother or your own father. These are people you can confide things to that you cannot confide in anyone. Because right now, the world we live in, people are not truthful. They are not trustable. And yes, it's a painful, but you just have to accept and take it up and move forward.
And then you mentioned something, you lost your dad when he was in the second year. So
Yes.
I believe Kamali was helping fund the youth through university. How now are you able now to sustain yourself post-university and start your career? How was it? What did you get yourself into?
Actually, you know, funny thing, when my dad was sick with cancer, at that season is when I started politics in campus. And on his deathbed, he watched me on TV and he was like, my son, why are you in this space of politics and you have not even told me about it? Because for me, I feared. You know the fear that, hey, if my father knows that I'm in politics, na nilituma kusoma, itakuwa ngori. So that was the tough moment at that period. But we managed to overcome.
All right. So something about you is that, so after you mentioned you did Bachelor of Commerce and then you went to Strathmore, you did your CPAs, you did your Certified Investment Financial Analyst, and then you got into a career.
Yes.
And how was, first of all, that transition? Because in university, primarily you're this particular very, very active individual politically, and then now you're done with university and then you've gotten into a career. How did you decide? Because once a politician, always become a politician.
So when I was in campus, in politics, you know, politics could give you leadership, student leadership could give you some cash flow. So we could do a few things in campus, we could own a tax shop. So in those particular seasons, you'll start getting income. I remember my first boom I got, there is a shop I was allocated because of being a student leader at the University of Nairobi. And I remember saying, me, I'm not a businessman. Let me sell this tax shop to someone who can run it.
Oh, so you never did it?
So I sold it and I got a lot of money. So my first goal was to go to get my best suit that I ever dreamt of.
You sold a shop to get a suit?
Yani, it was in student leadership. So you know how you look, how you appear. The suit was almost 22,000 then.
And so you sold the shop for 22,000?
No, the shop was, we sold the shop at around 250,000. And we were two of us, so we were two leaders.
To split it?
To split it. So because
so probably 120.
Exactly. So hiyo 20 ya juu, nilienda nikatafuta suit kali sana.
Ya kushtua watu.
Ya kushtua watu. Then I remember my then Dr. Were, he was a very good mentor at the university. He was like, hey, my son, umevaa suti kali kunishinda. Then I was like, so you can see it. Then I was like, yes. Then from then I started having a liking for good things. Yes.
All right. And so, as you mentioned, so you transition now into employment.
So
for how many years were you in employment? How was that process?
Actually, my first employment was an internship. I worked for a brick lining company. That was the funniest thing that I ever imagined. Yes, brick lining. Like they do bricks. It's an Indian company here on Mombasa Road. So I went there. We were being paid a stipend of 500 every day. So every week, yes, it's 3,500. You get paid and you go home. But we used to get a bread and milk. So in that journey, I used to wake up very early in the morning. You know, now I'm staying in campus. I have to go work to try get something on top of what I was being given by my father. Now he's not there. Now things are very tough. You don't know who to call to. So inabidi umejitetea. So that is how I started my career. But in that journey, I felt like this is not my space of being employed, waking up early in the morning, taking orders from people. That was not my calling. So after 2-3 weeks, I woke up and said, I'm not going to that thing. So I stayed in campus. I focused now on the student leadership. I tried to make networks here and there. because at that moment in student leadership, everyone wanted to associate with you. And the more you associate with them, you will get a few coins here and there. So in that journey, I focused that, and then I finished UN. I went to Strathmore to do my CPA, which now after finishing my CPA, I was jobless for like 6 months. Then I got a call from a logistics company, which needed an accounts assistant. So I went there to start working. It was the beginning of my official journey as an employee, which it was good, but again, it wasn't that good. I remember the turning point when I lost my grandmother. And when I lost my grandmother during that period, I went to bury her. And I went to bury her, I came back and my boss had slashed my salary by half.
Why?
Reason? I had not gotten approval from her of my leave. Yes, and yet I had applied 2 weeks prior. So that changed my thinking completely.
Because you've gone for burial, your salary is slashed in half.
Yes.
You know Mwindi?
Hapana, haiko kwa Mwindi.
So
So my salary was slashed. Then I was told you're not going to be paid half of your salary because you went for leave and you did not ask. And mind you, it was just 3 days. That thing really angered me badly. And I was like, no, I don't think I am suitable to be an employee. Especially in this private sector. No, if it's business, let me try my luck in business. So then I quit. That was around 2016. When I quit, we were heading into the election period. So I said, nimekuwa kwa hii leadership space. Why don't I go and try? So I ventured into politics at Upper Savannah Ward, Embakasi East, as an MCA in 2017. Then ODM wakanifanyia ile kitu bana. Ile nomination.
It's gone.
It gone. But a friend of mine, who we are very good friend up to date, got the ticket and won the elections. So I focused on supporting him. I started a small business after that of selling suits. And it was good. It was actually fresh look suits. Because I had to make ends meet. And I realized because I have a network for these politicians and they need suits, why don't I start selling suits? So I started selling suits. I started with my friends. And I realized business pays. So that is when things just started evolving. And since then, I've never been employed.
And one of the interesting business that you were talking about earlier on, and I'm sure probably part of the audience came across it, was Haki, the online hailing app, which was at the time trying to also get into the market and to compete with the likes of Uber, Bolt, and the stuff. How did that particular idea come about?
Okay, that particular idea, you know, when Uber came to the market in 2017, funny thing is I jumped into it. I drove as an Uber driver.
Oh, you're an Uber driver?
Yes.
So ulikuwa unauza suti na Uber?
Yes. Nilikuwa naenda na Uber nikibeba msimu mwenye ako na suti. Namwambia bro, mimi nauzanga suti. Niaje, chukua hii suti. So during that process, I was like, hapa iko shida. Because all of a sudden unapata driver. By then 2017, you could make like 75,000 in a week.
Yeah, I hear that.
You got me? So it was lucrative. It was booming business. So we pushed, and I was like, no, why are people agitating? Then Taxify came. Then,
I remember,
yes, there was a competition. Then madriver wakaanza kuenda kwa strike. Wanasema prices zimeshukishwa nini. Because now you know, if you're making 75, then the prices go down. It becomes an agitation. So I went into the research mode. Because I'm in this space and I have knowledge, I went into a research mode and I realized if I can come up with something, then I can tap into the value in this market. So I thought through it and I was like, in this business, there's nothing like empowerment. Like as a driver, yes, I have made 75,000 a week. What happens? Ukiniuliza end month hiyo 75,000 iko wapi yani? I will not give you that money. Because I take the money and I spend it hand to mouth. So that was the journey. Then after like 6 months, 7 months, I realized if I can develop something that can solve the welfare of this driver, can give them justice, then I will be in business. It was a plan that I wrote for almost a year. I remember my then girlfriend was like, hey, Newton, and you sometimes when you want to do something, you put your mind to it.
Yeah.
You completely focus on it until it is done. So in the journey of it, that is when Haki was born. Haki talks about justice. Like drivers were demonstrating saying Haki yetu. So we were like, Haki yetu. So why don't we do Haki?
Oh, so the Haki is justice in
Exactly,
Swahili.
yes, in Swahili.
And primarily, how did you want to compete in a market that primarily had international competition?
So the international competition to me wasn't a threat.
Yeah.
My goal was to look at the problem. What was the problem? The problem was these drivers, they're making money, but they don't know where this money is going to. Then I quickly did a research with the SACCOs. How come that something like Police SACCO is a very successful SACCO? Something like Mwalimu SACCO is a very successful SACCO. And if you go back to my village, where I come from, a lot of people there are teachers. And if you go to a teacher's home, you'll find either they have constructed a permanent home, they are driving a small car or a bicycle, and that was progress. Their kids are going to school. And then I realized what empowers them is actually these cooperatives, these SACCOs. And I realized if we come up with one that solidly unites these drivers, then they will have a place where they can access cheap credit, they can be able to survive, they can be able to save. Right now, still, even right now, that problem has not been solved.
So primarily it was an online hailing app where people would use it, but also the drivers, through their participation in the app, they can be able to also to save and access credit and all that.
Yes.
So it was two in one. So a SACCO and the online hailing app.
Yes. And it was integrated so instant that if you take a ride from here to the airport and it's charging you 1,000 bob, 100 will automatically
to your savings.
Go to your savings.
That's very interesting.
Without even any discussion.
Yeah.
And then this money builds up. So if, let's say, in the morning you wake up and you don't have cash for fuel, you can still access this money and fuel. Because my vision on that was, I wanted to build a one-stop hub for these drivers, especially for the driver's end. Because you realize this driver needs a car, which is either financed via loan. 2, they need repairs. 3, they need fuel. So these 3 components were affecting most of these drivers. And my thinking was, if they can have these savings in a pool of these resources, because in my projections, they were running up to 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. So if you can have this money, then you can partner with fuel selling stations so that if you are a Haki driver, you just walk in, you fuel full tank, you go work because you have your money.
Yes.
So you cannot run away from it.
Interesting.
You got me?
Yeah.
So, and then if you want to repair, let's say your tires are worn, you don't need to struggle. You go somewhere like Auto Express, you go to Auto Express, they will repair everything for you at no cost. And then we'll cover from the costing that you have. For something like buying the cars, instead of these drivers going to Mombasa and buying cars at higher purchase or even taking loans from banks, my concept was that these drivers can access credit at cost. Then we partner with people in Japan who can bring in the cars at cost. If it comes here at 600, the driver will get it at 600. And then as a SACCO, we'll stand in for them. As they work, they pay slowly. They only pay the 600 without any interest because this is their money. We're just trying to empower them to make them think bigger and better. And through that, we had an objective of having them own homes because of instead of
bigger vision.
Exactly. Yes, it was a very broader vision.
Right. So we're going to take a short commercial break and then we're going to find out what exactly happened to Haki. It was one night on the market and then what's happened to, and also so much that's actually you're going to exploring after the break. So I'll see you after the break. Welcome back. Before you went on a break, CPA. That's when it's CPA. You need to just take us through your journey in terms of what's it called, your political interest while in university. You got into employment. You set up a new startup. You're in Uber. You're doing so many things. And then there's something we're talking about offline. Maybe we can also just talk about it in terms of maybe what transpired to Haki. It was a big vision, but you mentioned later on you have some challenges with the partner that you had. What exactly was it called? What did you learn out of that particular experience?
Ian, what I learned is as entrepreneurs, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a thinker, if you have ideas, before you enter into a conversation with a partner, please do very good research. Because there are sharks outside here who not only want you to succeed, but they want to kill your idea before it gets to the market. So they will pretend to be good, they'll pretend to be kind, but a small disagreement, they will maximize that to ensure that you get frustrated. And you see, one thing that startups have challenges with is capital. And many people take advantage of that. So they get your idea, they tell you we are going to be with you, we are going to work with you, you actualize. You know, when you're telling someone an idea, the way I'm talking to you, you can imagine the concept. So this guy was like, are you sure this thing can work? And I told him yes. So the moment we put our hands on deck and we actualize the idea and he saw it is working, then he realized, no. This thing is too big. I remember one day he was sitting on his chair and he said, do you know, Newton, this thing we are going to sell it at a lot of money. And in my mind I was like, I'm not doing this to sell. I'm doing this to empower these people and also to build a business concept that will be replicated across the globe. So in that process, we had a lot of disagreement. We tried to mend them, but the other person was very, very rigid. Was like, no, I'm going to teach you who I am and all those threats. And Mimi, Ian, if there is something I don't take, life is threats or intimidation. I don't easily get intimidated. If you want to intimidate me, think twice, because that is a path that I don't always take positive. Yes.
And from that experience, because primarily it was, you have the idea, you had the capital, you fused together, you built this business, but primarily the interest did not merge. And primarily so the business literally had to come to a halt. Looking back in retrospect, what's the advice you can give any entrepreneur watching this who's maybe considering having a partnership with someone? What should someone look at to ensure that he doesn't get to this part? Because it was a big vision. I remember even seeing Haki primarily even just competing. I think even I downloaded the app.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden just gets out of the market.
Exactly. What I can tell any entrepreneur who has ideas, especially in tech and all that, just get good advice. And you don't necessarily need big people. You just need a trustable person, a person who believes in you and who believes in your idea, who will celebrate your success. Not who would want to be jealous of your progress, because this app, if things rolled out the way I had purpose to, then right now I don't think we'll be having a competitor in the market. Because even right now as you're speaking, Ian, there's no competition in this market. People are still doing the same things, repeating, just developing this application, calling it a different name. The same concept that is there in the market, of which I believe it's about time the industry got revolutionized.
And the reason, primarily, I'm sure the audience, primarily they're listening to it, I'm like, why are you not getting into details? I'm like, it's still a court case, that's the reason why.
Yes.
The story is still in court. Well, how are you able now to move from this? Because I know most entrepreneurs are like, I had this big idea, it didn't work. Now, how are you able to move away now, or move and transition from this?
Ian, that thing sent me into depression. I have to tell you.
Well, you're depressed.
That time I was depressed. I was very much depressed. It even made me lose something that I really treasured most, my marriage, because I went into depression and things were very bad. And
because you'd given everything and it didn't work.
Yes, I gave in everything and all that. So I was really battling a lot, just trying to transition from an idea that you have worked so hard for a year. It's now actualized, it's operational, and then all of a sudden, things just come down crumbling. You realize like, oh my goodness, what I've put all my energy in,
it's now gone.
It's gone. And the dream of even coming back is nowhere. And then what hurt me most is, I had an interested person from the United Kingdom. I even still look at those emails and I'm like, really, God? Is this the journey you wanted me to go through the pains? Because I had an offer to go and register this particular idea in the United Kingdom. But because this company was co-owned or because I had partnered with someone and this person we are in disagreement, I try to send him emails and tell him, look, there's a very good opportunity here. Can we shift and go to the United Kingdom? We'll be able to get more funds, market this idea and push forward. Then he was like, no, I'm not boarding. So you can imagine that pain.
Because you told me you guys are 50-50 shareholders, so meaning no one had a majority.
No one had.
Oh.
You got me? But again, the other challenge that I can advise people is, just do your legal work very well. Because to some extent, I failed to guard my interests on paper. Because I trusted this person because of his age and his nature. Because I was like, this is an old man, and I don't think anaweza ni short change, anaweza ni yosha. I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And it was probably another low season to you, because I remember you told me earlier, what's it called? Losing your dad was a difficult season. Now you've lost your business, you've lost your marriage. How are you able to rise up?
You know, I told you I was very depressed, actually, very depressed. I used to spend most of my times in the house. Then a friend of mine called James, right now he works with a lot of startups. He called me and was like, Newton, where are you? Come. There's a conversation I want us to go and have. Then I was like, which conversation? So we went, sat in a room somewhere, and the conversation was about if you were picked as an advisor to a presidential candidate, what will you do? Or how will you change the concept to bring young people on board? So in that particular conversation, I didn't know what we were discussing about. So we finished the first conversation. Then 2 days later, the person who convened that meeting calls me and tells me, Newton, following our meeting, I would like you to come. I want you to meet the person who made us convene that meeting. I didn't know who that person was. So I go, who do we meet? The Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Justin Muturi. So we go discuss, and we are put in a team. Now the team to spearhead the presidential campaign for Justin Muturi. Then a few days later, we again convene for a conversation with him. And then in the conversation, I don't know how it happened. I don't know if it was God. I don't know if it was because of the capabilities that I had. But the speaker said, Newton, from today, you're going to be my spokesperson. And that gave me hope. I put in all.
So it was someone who failed in business.
Yes.
Had all this thing not going on for him.
Yes.
To become now the spokesperson for...
To the Speaker of the National Assembly. And I was like, God, your ways are not my ways. I will do as you wish.
Mambo za Mungu.
Mambo ya Mungu.
Yeah.
Let your wish, let your will be my way. Because when I'm thinking I'm going down, you come.
Happens.
Yes, exactly. You come up and you just refreshen everything. So that really gave me hope. I put in all that I could, because this is an opportunity that not every Kenyan will get it.
And primarily, he had presidential aspirations. You're part of the team, but later on he dropped it.
Yes.
How did you now maneuver through it?
Now, when he dropped it, you know, politics is a game of interest. Ian. So you look at the options that are available. And I remember having long conversations day and night with the team and just trying to think where we can go, where we can make our efforts count. And at the last minute, we found ourselves with Kenya Kwanza. Actually, the Kenya Kwanza idea came from a team of us in the JB team, because that was a concept that we wanted. We wanted to put Kenya first. That was the idea. So I remember we crafted a billboard, we put up there. Little did we know that this particular thing that we're crafting will be the reason why we have a government today called Kenya Kwanza government. Yeah, so it was a bit tough, but we have to make choices. The choices were very difficult to make, I have to say. The idea of going to William Ruto's side or going to Raila Amolo Odinga's side was not an easy decision. But all in all, as you say, politics is a game of interests. So our interests were more favored on this end. And we managed to go there. And
during this stint, I don't know, maybe you can just give us this, when you're working within a presidential team,
Yes.
do you guys have an allowance, a stipend? How does it work? Or because you're kujitolea and then you hope
Okay,
for the best? How does it work?
For
Because your business had failed.
yes.
Now
yes,
you're here
yes.
working as a spokesman.
Exactly.
Was it on pro bono? Were you being paid? How are you surviving?
No, you see, as I've told you, my hiring was not through an interview or something. It was just out of the abundance of God's doing. I got the job. And the person who gave me the job had a lot of grace towards me. And he was a very good teacher. He became a good mentor. He became a guiding principle in all my political journeys. So in this process, yes, there are stipends. You will be appreciated. Today, tomorrow, it might not be there.
Yeah.
Because you see, to run a campaign,
It's expensive.
it is very expensive. And you have to consider, you shelve your personal interest for the bigger interest of your candidate's success. So through that, we could push. You get some stipend, you push with the hope and the desire that tomorrow will be better.
You could be the speaker.
Exactly.
And because one thing I know, politics and business or economy are always intertwined.
Yes.
And you've sat on both particular helms. How important is it for one to, what's it called, for you to merge both?
Now, you know, in the space of politics, I can challenge you, Ian. Anyone who has ever been a successful business anywhere in the world, be it Bill Gates of this world, be it Elon Musk of this world, be it the Chris Kirubis, the late of this world, there is one thing that is very common with them. They don't trade on their own. They have to trade with governments. That is something that is constant. So if you want to succeed, sometimes people will tell you, you don't need government, but you can't run a business without the government. It will be very difficult for you. You might have an idea, but if government does not support your idea, then you're done. So business and government is one and the same thing. You have to be coherent with each other to be able to ensure that you succeed, and you also have to align.
And so you, at one point, what was it called, running a business, did not succeed, got yourself as a spokesperson for a presidential candidate, did not go through, the government has transpired, whatever the government comes to be, on the side you're leaning on. How now are you able now to shift yourself and also just refocus yourself into business?
So, in the first place, as I was having this conversation with the
because the
whole board,
22 you didn't run.
I didn't run.
Yeah.
Because now I put all my energy to support my presidential candidate.
Yeah.
And actually, on his end also, he liked my business idea, my business thoughts. Because I remember when I took him through the hacky idea, he was like, Newton, if this works, then it can be very huge. So he liked the way of thinking, the way I had my ideas. So at that particular point, I did not have any business thought. I said, let me take a break, and there's an opportunity here. Let me maximize on it. So I focused wholeheartedly in the political space. And in the process, yes, the team won. Then after winning, of course, in life, you probably have expectations. That is what drives us. Sometimes you get what you want. Sometimes you don't. But what matters most is that you always stay on course. So after the elections, I realized that there's an opportunity in business, and I need to go and establish something, an empire, not for me, but for also my children and my family, that one day, even if they follow my journey, they will realize that this man had a vision. And leadership or politics should not deviate you from your personal and intended vision that you want to achieve. So from there, I shifted back. I engaged in business. Then the funny thing is I partnered with a few friends who we were with in the leadership space. We were like, we need now to come together and build a business that is going to traverse ages and also support us moving forward. So we opened a company, 2022 again. So this company was short-lived again. You learn lessons. Just the same mistakes that humans do.
Yeah.
You do this partnership, it fails. You try another one thinking that it will be a different one. Then it doesn't work out. So after that, I decided now to go wholeheartedly alone. I open now my own venture, that I am the sole director, that I am the vision bearer. And I realized that that is the only way I'll be able to build this to where I want it to be. Then after that, then I can incorporate other people to be part of
So that's
the
when
parcel of
TASEC came to be.
That is when TASEC now came to be.
So, TASEC is in the educational sector. Can you just take us through what exactly it is that you do?
Okay, for TASEC, first of all, the idea to come to fruition, there's a day I realized that in the area around Machakos, I realized businesses are really struggling to just get into the market and the people there, because it is a high growing area. And I realized businesses are struggling, people are struggling. So I organized a convention of businesses together in form of an expo. So in that expo, I noticed, no, this is not the problem. If you realize, education is the key. Nelson Mandela told us, and it is a weapon that can be used to change and transform lives. At that point, I noticed, as a parent, I struggled to look for a school for my boy. We visited almost 10 schools for us to get that school that we wanted. Two, these schools have a budgeting cost, but this this marketing cost that they have is just to go pitch a tent in a mall somewhere. They don't get an impact of it. And I realized, hapa, there is an opportunity. So my first event was an all schools event, like an education fair. But now I noticed that people do education fairs that are not focused on helping schools get admissions and parents sign up schools. It is just to showcase. So I realized there is a need in the sector. One, the education sector is very broad. There is the financing component, there is the learning component, the institution, then there is the technology concept, and then there is the transportation, stationary, tertiary, and all those particular things. And in Kenya, we didn't have a platform that is a one-stop shop for education sector service providers. So quickly, I realized there's an opportunity, and with this opportunity, if I curate it this manner, I'm going to be where I want to be. So I started the All Schools Expo. So with the All Schools Expo, as the name goes, it is just a conversation around institutions of learning from preschool all the way to tertiary institutions. Because what happens is you realize there is a convention here for tertiary institutions only. There is another one for international schools only.
It's all different
sectors. Why don't we bring all this? Because in my thinking, I think of aggregating and bringing these things as a one-stop hub for everything education. And then in that process, I started. The first one, I got 15 sign-ups from schools. And I was like,
Which county did you do it?
Machakos. I did in an estate. And I was like, 15 schools have signed up, including insurance companies and all that. Then there is something here that people are not seeing. So I quickly evolved it to, from All Schools Expo now, I registered TasecGroup Limited. Tasec basically stands for the All Schools Consulting Group Limited, meaning that we consult for institutions in the education sector, be it outside or be it within the schools. Because we realize that parents are struggling to get these institutions. They don't know where to take their kids. They don't know their objective of where they want to school their kids. And the schools themselves, they have a marketing budget, but we realize that it is the teachers who are also mandated to market the schools, which does not work. So instead of a teacher focusing on teaching, they focus on marketing. So to solve their problem, I realized that I can build a platform called the All Schools Expo that can be able to incorporate all these institutions in one place, so that a school knows this month we're going to have an expo here for schools, and we can go there to market our ventures.
And in setting up this particular venture and having other ventures that you've done before, some successful, some failed, what are some of the lessons that you do bring into this to ensure that now it's, encompasses what exactly it is that you want to do with your vision?
So one is that my vision is my vision. It is mine. I cannot delegate it to Ian to implement it. I have to do it myself for it to be successful. That is something that is very clear in my mind right now. Because if you delegate or if you partner with someone whose interests are not like yours, because my vision, my whole idea was to inspire learning and inspire life. Because the moment you put this education sector together, you are inspiring something called learning. And learning is not a one-day event. Every year, we enroll new students. Every year, students graduate. Every year, students go to the next. So it is a continuous process. So the concept was to inspire learning. And how to do it, it really entails you putting your hands on deck.
So hands on deck.
Yes.
What other lessons do you think that you also learned from that experience? Because you've talked about one that I think you've talked about several times, the aspect of partnership. So this time you decided to go alone, the aspect of vision that you cannot delegate. What other lessons do you think that you also gained from your previous experience?
From my previous experiences is I learned that always plan to accommodate failure. Because if you don't plan to fail, if you don't plan the failure component of business, then you're not ready for business. Because there's no business that starts and succeeds. It will fail at some point or it will have a lot of challenges. But the most important is keep pushing and moving forward. Yes.
And you've experienced success and failure, both, I can say, in those like equal measure per se, based on your experience, just listening to your story. What have you learned from success and what exactly have you learned from failure?
Failure is not fatal. Failure is just a season. Or is that a small component of success? And success is not final. You might be successful today, tomorrow you're not. Things change. So life is fluid. Both success and failure is fluid. It's just like a movement. Yes, exactly. The waves of life. You can be up, you can be down, you can be up, you can be down. The most important thing is to remain consistent. Yes, and focused.
And before we come to an end, I have like 10 questions, quick fire questions. So I'll shoot whatever comes to your mind.
Yes.
Whatever, you answer that. So what do you think is the greatest risk you've ever taken?
Starting business.
Which is your favorite word?
Peace.
What were you most afraid of as a child?
Failure.
What has been your favorite age so far?
My current.
My
millennial.
What item is worth spending more money on?
Suits.
If you could afford any car, which one would you drive?
Mercedes.
What is one thing you regret spending money on?
Alcohol.
Are you more of a thinker or a doer?
A thinker.
How do you start your day?
Prayer.
And the final question, what scares you?
Nothing scares me. Yes.
Interesting. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks so much for having come to this show. So hopefully next time you're not you're becoming the presidential candidate.
Yes,
spokesman.
I have those ambitions here.
Wishing you all the best. Thank you so much. Hope you've learned a thing or two from our conversation. And as always, you can also follow us on social media at KTN Home _ at Ian Dennis Network, all across social media platforms. You can get my books at Textbook Center, Business Conquest, Food for Thought, available at Textbook Center. And today I've been dressed by Hati Couture. Check them out on social media platforms. Yeah, they do quite interesting stuff. So my name is Ian Dennis. This has been The Late Night Business. Until next time, I'll see you right here on KTN Home.